X. The truth is on air. City Talk 105.9.
This is City Talk 105.9.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Do not be afraid. We are now in control of what you hear.
1, 2, 3, testing.
A journey to the far reaches of knowledge and the unknown.
I can't believe I just saw that.
From aliens to angels, conspiracies to cover-ups.
One soul and preeminent power.
From extraterrestrials to exposing the truth.
I'll try to explain as much as I can.
You're listening to Planet X. Planet X, exclusive to City Talk 105.9.
Good evening, I'm Neil Atkinson, and welcome to our weekly journey to the world of the weird and the strange, the supernatural and the suppressed, the conspiracies to the cover-ups. It's all right here on Planet X, each and every Sunday, 8 till 10, where the truth is on air. Broadcasting live from Liverpool on City Talk 105.9, online and on DAB as well. And to help me out each week, we have our fantastic Team X, consisting of Dan the Man, Darren Perks, and also tonight, David Lloyd and Stretchy. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Now, apologies for last week. I had a bit of a virus, and it was worse than man flu, so don't all start giving me grief. And so I had a virus, and by all accounts, so too did our website. Dun, dun, dun. But Stretchy Stretchy tells me that there's nothing conspiratorial about it. He's looking into it at the moment, but we had a few people posting on Facebook and on the forum saying, "Oh, it's the CIA and it's this, it's that, the other, the Men in Black." But apparently, it's just one of those things. So anyway, we are back. We've got the boys in the studio and two fantastic and very different guests on the show tonight. In the second hour, we're going to be talking to the super soldier, James Rink. Now, James is a meditation practitioner. He's a researcher. He's an author. He's a film producer. And through his Super Soldier Talk video series, he's helped awaken humanity to the secret activities of what he calls the covert government, uncovering topics such as brainwashing, trauma, and something called MIDLABS, which apparently stands for military abductions and covert harassment, all of which he's had to endure his entire life as a product of Project Surrogate and Ultra MK Milab Super Soldier experimentation. His book Lone Wolf chronicles these very projects, and I know that Dave Lloyd, who's here tonight, you followed his work quite a lot over the course of the last few years, haven't you?
He's made quite a lot of videos, actually. I think he's up to about 66 videos now, where he's actually interviewed other people who believe that they're in the same position, and through regression, they're trying to help each other out. What they're trying to do, they're trying to get the memories back, because the minds are fragmented. They're only getting bleed through, so they're only getting portions of what's actually happened, and try and find out if it's a reality and what's really going on behind the scenes. Because if it is what's going on, what James says it is, it's absolutely awesome. And we're talking about alien involvement, alien technology, and some nasty stuff.
We're also talking about change, because there's been some nasty stuff going on where we are now. A lot of people, in the spiritual community and in the sort of world that we work within Planet X, are kind of saying that there is a change around the corner. 2013, a lot of people were saying it's an awakening. And he deals with change. He says that change is on the horizon. And there's a 3-hour video documentary covering a variety of topics, delving into, if the whole alien thing is too much for you, he delves into things which is, relevant to what's going on in everyone's life, to do with banking, finance, constitutional law, and something called NESRA as well, which is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. Dave, do you want to elaborate more on that.
Yeah, he made a cracking film. The name escapes me right now because I've seen that many of his videos. But he doesn't do things by half, James, either. His videos are always 2 hours long or an hour and a half, hour and three quarters. But I've been wading my way through it, and it's such interesting information. What he's basically saying, if they can get rid of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve is a private bank. The American government, they may borrow billions off the Federal Reserve or trillions in debt now, but they have to pay back the Federal Reserve at an interest rate which is going into a private banker's profits. So what James is saying, if you can get rid of the Federal Reserve, but also get some of the suppressed technologies out as well.
Yeah, and this is what we're going to go into in the next hour with James just after 9 o'clock, and again you've been doing your research on him as well, haven't you, Darren? So you found some interesting stuff.
Super soldiers, it's military linked. It's military linked. So we're talking about things that you're not going to hear in public, but this information is coming out, and people like James Ring are sharing the knowledge on it. And what I will say to people is listen to what he's got to say, because it links back to all sorts of different things. So
that's James Rink on the show just after 9 o'clock. In the first hour, in fact, after the first break, we're going to be talking to somebody called Dolores Cannon. Now, she's regarded as a regressive hypnotherapist and also a psychic researcher who, now this is the twist, records lost knowledge. She's been involved with hypnosis for some 40 years, and if you've seen the picture, she looks like a really sweet little old somebody's grandmother, doesn't she? But she really knows her stuff. She's been involved with this sort of subject for 40 years and exclusively with past life therapy and regression work for over 30 years. Now, over this time, she's developed her own unique technique, which enables her to gain the most efficient release of information from her clients to bring about sort of instantaneous healing, if you like. She's also been a UFO investigator for some 20 years, investigating the crop circles over here in this country and accumulating evidence from suspected abductees through hypnosis. And there's a lot of stuff. She's written some 14 books covering all kinds of incredible research. We're going to touch on a few different subjects. The waves of volunteers, which is something that she talks and writes about. The first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. The third wave being more to do with the sort of indigo and star sort of children. And also her theories on the fact that she says we exist within multiple dimensions and move between them without our conscious awareness. So all sounds good food for thought, and it sounds like it's all going to be a very interesting debate with Dolores. She's on, as I say, after the first break within the next 5 or 10 minutes. If you'd like to get in touch, it's a very interactive show. If you've never listened before, you'll know it's a very interactive show here on Planet X, and there's loads of different ways that you can either get in touch with us, get in touch with our Planet experts, or indeed the guests. Now, probably the first place to start is with City Talk's very own website, so you can go to the website there and get all the details there. It's citytalk.fm. You can also get us on planetxlive.co.uk. You can get us on the text, which is as simple as sending a text and starting your text message with the word talk to 61025. Or Big Dave is back producing the show and taking your calls as well. So you can give us a call on 0151 if you're outside Liverpool, of course, 708 1059. But all those details are online at planetxlive.co.uk. And Dan, of course, you're here going through the Facebook at the moment.
That's right. All you have to do is join our group, which is search for on Facebook, Planet X, City Talk 105.9. Ask to join the group and we'll accept you right here, and you can post comments, ask questions, and you can join in with our usual listeners. Very interesting conversations on Facebook.
Cool. And already there's quite a lot of stuff on the forums, isn't there?
That's right. We've got a few interesting questions on the whole subject of hypnotherapy on the forums coming in already, so we should be having in for a good show.
Cool. Now, we've only got a little bit of time because, as I say, we've got two guests tonight. So, Darren, I think you're going to run through some of the things that have interested you in the news. from the past week.
Yeah, and just before I start, all this is more in depth on the forum. If you go to In the News section, you can watch videos and read links. There's been some fantastic developments in the last few days. One of them is the Bigfoot subject. And for those of you that don't know, Bigfoot is a mysterious monster that lurks around the woods in North America, and it's been around for years. And what we have recently are two young boys have found an extremely large paw or foot in a Massachusetts woods. They were basically playing, minding their own business. They found this decayed sort of foot, given it to the local police. The local police have gone, that's not a bear's foot, we're not too sure. They've given it to scientists, and scientists have said, yeah, this doesn't look like an animal that we are familiar with, and it started the whole Bigfoot mystery off again, and it's just fascinating, and more and more as we go on seems to be coming up, and that's on the forum. We've also recently had it was in the media, it was on the TV, the Glasgow UFO incident. We've had a brilliant case in the last week or so of a pilot on approach to Glasgow Airport on the 2nd of December in 2012. This report's just been made public. Him and his crew have seen a blue and yellow object literally on a head-on collision with the aircraft at 3,500 feet to the east of Glasgow. It was officially reported, and we did some digging into it. We spoke to Glasgow Airport, and the key thing here is Glasgow Airport said they reported it to the MOD. The MOD apparently don't look at UFO incidents anymore. Well, so that again is on the forum, and there's a few maps on there. A new plasma device has been developed by scientists, and what we have here, we're talking about plasma energy, which is to be considered as the holy grail of energy generation and storage. And what they're trying to do is trying to develop some sort of plasma energy system that can be incorporated around human beings and can operate within 2 feet of us without giving off any radiation or harmful effects. So that's quite an interesting one. And this is fascinating. This has been on the TV as well. The world's smallest robot has been built, and these things are tiny, tiny flies, and they are real robots. They work at the moment from a tether, but they're small enough to be able to carry a camera and different bits of spy tech, and they actually mimic the wing beats of real life mosquitoes and flies at I think it's 200 beats per minute, and it just shows how much technology now is advancing at a quick pace. In 5 years' time, God knows, we might be having robotic birds sitting on your bird table, in the garden. And the last thing is the weather. What is going on with the weather? And we're no stranger to things happening in the weather. But give a thought to Italy. They had a supercell storm on the 3rd of May, and literally they had huge, the biggest tornadoes that you would only expect to get in the Midwest in the States, and hailstones bigger than baseballs, and it created thousands of pounds worth of damage. And something is going on with the weather, and you've got to ask the questions, and we know we've touched on this before, is the weather being manipulated? Is there technology that's suppressing different weather systems and enhancing them, or is it just Mother Nature? Get on the forum, guys. There's loads of posts on there, and give us your views to them as well. It'd be great.
Good stuff. Dave, you want to just jump in quickly?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, actually, Darren, you've been in the news as well, haven't you, recently?
Yeah, again, that's on the forum as well. I've put that in extraterrestrial images and videos. I was testing some night vision equipment recently, and I caught some unidentified flying objects on film, in 15 plus objects, which we don't know what they are. We're not ruling out birds, we're not ruling out anything, but the simple fact is we've done the process of investigation and elimination. We've spoke to the authorities. I've spoken to Chris Packham, the wildlife expert, who says they're not birds, and I've spoken to various other people. It's an interesting video. Go on the forum. It's only 1 minute 33 seconds. So
good stuff. Yeah, it's all there for you at planetxlive.co.uk. Right, our first guest, she is over in the States, but we're going to hook up with her next. It's Dolores Cannon, right here on Planet X.
The radio show that officially does not exist. This is Planet X. Planet X on City Talk 105.9.
Welcome back to Planet X. Now, before we go to our first guest, let me just remind you about the competition that we set up a few weeks ago. Thanks to Darren Williams for sorting this one out. It's the Kubrick Collection, and there's more details on the website, planetxlive.co.uk. And I think, off the top of my head, the closing date is May the 22nd. That's May the 22nd. If you'd like to have a go at winning all those Kubrick DVDs, just go to the website, planetxlive.co.uk. And as I say, the closing date is the 22nd of May. Right, very excited about our next guest. Dolores Cannon is a regressive hypnotherapist and a psychic researcher who records lost knowledge. Very interested to find out more about that. She's been involved with hypnosis for 40 years, possibly longer, and exclusively with past life therapy and regression work for some 30 years. And over this time, she's developed her own unique technique, which enables her to gain the most efficient release of information from her clients and to facilitate instantaneous healing, which, again, we'll talk to her more about that. She's also been a UFO investigator for some 20 years or so, investigating such things as the crop circles here in the UK and accumulating evidence from suspected abductees through hypnosis. She's written loads of books, I think something like 14 books, possibly more, and there's just a vast amount of information that she's gleaned over the years from her research. It's quite mind-blowing. So let's say a very warm welcome to Dolores Cannon. Welcome to Planet X.
Okay, thank you for asking me.
It's great to have you. In the introduction there, I was saying that you've been involved in hypnotherapy and in past life regression, but you're so much more than just a hypnotherapist, aren't you, Dolores?
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing. I began in the 1960s when no one was doing any of this. That's why they're considering me a pioneer, because when I started out in hypnosis, the only thing it was used for was habits. You know, stop smoking, lose weight, and to relax. No one knew anything about, there was no metaphysics, there was no New Age, no one in the Western world knew much about reincarnation. Hypnosis was not used for past life regression. There was no such thing. So when I started out, it was at the very, very beginning of it. So it's been a long journey.
Now, tell us about, I mean, there's so many subjects that we could go at here tonight. With your UK audience, and a lot of people listening tonight might not be that familiar with your work over here because you're huge in the States. But where do you want to go on this little journey of ours between the next sort of 40 minutes? Where should we start?
Oh, it's up to you, because I can talk about anything you want to talk about in metaphysics.
Well, this is. I mean, I know some of our guests in the studio have got lots of questions for you, but one of the things that I'm interested in is that you say we exist within multiple dimensions and move between them without conscious awareness. Tell us more about that.
Are you ready to go to that part? Usually people want to begin at the easy things and then get up to the more complicated.
Well, we've got quite a knowledgeable audience, but go on then. Give us a little bit on that.
Okay, because most people, even when I'm doing my lectures, I try to keep it in what I think they can understand, and I don't want to go over their heads. But I've written the 4 books called the Convoluted Universe series, and each one of those has gotten more and more complicated with more complicated concepts and theories that have not even been explained before. So you're jumping right into the deep end of the pool, if you want me to go to that part. Okay, that's where you want to begin?
I think we should do. Yeah, let's do a little bit on that, because I want to get into, because this leads us on to a subject that we have revisited many times on this show, is the subject of ETs, and this is one of the ways you reckon that ETs may even travel.
Oh, I know that's how they travel.
Okay.
Okay, and that's why I didn't know which one you want to start at first, which would be the easiest for the audience to understand. But one thing people have to understand is that there is no such thing as time. Time is an illusion. The ETs have said that mankind is probably the only species in the universe has found a way to measure something that does not exist. Even to do that. So if you consider that there's no such thing as time, everything is happening at the same time. And at first I had a difficult time accepting that because, when I began, none of these series were around. And as I was given each one of them, I had to come to terms with it to understand it. They, when I talk about they, this means this larger force that I work with. It comes through every one of my clients, and I've learned how to direct it through the clients to get the information. That's where my information comes from. I don't channel, and I'm not a psychic. I'm a reporter that puts everything I find together like a gigantic puzzle. But they said, when I talked about everything happening at the same time, we know that. I said, how is that possible? We start out as a baby. We know we grow to a child, to a teenager, and to an adult. How can that be possible? It's all happening at the same time. They said that's because you're not using the right terminology. It's not happening at the same time. It is existing at the same time, which I don't know makes it any clearer, but it's as much bigger than we really think it is. So when we come into the human body, we are existing in many places at the same time, not just in this body. That's all we can understand because that's all the human mind is designed to handle. But we are also, all of our past lives and all of our future probable lives are all existing at the same time. This means on multiple dimensions. And I know the scientists talk about 4 or 5 dimensions. There are thousands, there are countless dimensions, and they're constantly growing. This is what they don't understand. We talk about the main dimensions, but you are constantly moving back and forth between other dimensions that you don't even realize. And we do this automatically. It's not like something you have to do. It's just a natural thing to the body. But a lot of these concepts, they said we will never, ever understand while we're in the human body because it's the human mind. It's not the brain. It's the mind has no concepts of all of this. The only time you can really understand it is after you leave the body. And on the spirit side, then it all becomes very clear. But they've given me bits and pieces. They said, think of it as though you're given little spoonfuls of information. Digest that, and then they'll give you another spoonful of information. They said you don't give a baby a 3-course meal. You give a baby milk, cereal, crushed vegetables. You don't give a baby a steak. So they start out that way very gently to ease you into these things. Otherwise, it would be way too overwhelming. They give you a little piece of information, digest that, then they'll give you another piece of information. And that's the way it happened to me over the last 45 years, because I could never have understood back then the information I'm getting now. It would have been way overwhelming. So now we're coming into a time, it's the greatest time in the universe to be alive right now, when finally all these things are being revealed, and we're ready for it. I travel all over the world constantly, and everywhere I go, people are getting this. They're understanding it. It's finally time that we're waking up. The veil is thinning, and we're beginning to be able to absorb more of this complicated information that we couldn't have even 10 years ago. So there's a big changes going on.
Yeah, I mean, we were just actually talking about that at the start of the show, that there is, a huge awakening happening. People say that it's connected with 2013. But I feel that, especially with shows like this, that people are starting to ask more questions. They are starting to understand that, there is more to what we're actually told.
Oh, there definitely is. Because we haven't been able to understand it at all, but it's like suddenly it's beginning to make sense. But in the beginning, when I began to get some of these complicated concepts, I said, "No, wait a minute, I've got it all figured out. Now you're messing with my ideas. It's upsetting everything that I've known." But when I stopped and thought about the new concept, it began to make sense. That's why they can't give it to you all at once. But we are at that stage now that our minds are ready to accept all of the strange things that are happening.
We've got, Dolores, we've got some of the guys in the studio who've got questions for you. And I think, Dan, we've got some coming through from the forums and from our Facebook pages. So we've got breaks to take, but we'll try and get in as many questions as we can. Who wants to go first? Dave Lloyd wants to ask you a question.
Hi, Dolores. One question that I have for you is it this awareness is rising because the frequency of the planet is rising?
Yes, it is. And, you know, everybody was talking about December the 21st, 2012 was supposed to be the end of the world. Incidentally, I was in London on that day. We had a premiere down in the theater district of a movie that I was in. And I said, we're not going to be staying home and hiding our heads under the covers. We're going to party. So we were on that day, and we knew it was not the end of the world. This was the beginning. It's the awakening. And I've noticed it since then. People are feeling a difference, that there's the vibrations and the frequencies have been rising since about 2003 as we move into this new dimension. Everything is changing, and a lot of people can feel it because the planet itself is moving into another dimension. And in order for it to do that, our frequency and vibrations have to change also if we want to go with it. So the whole thing is changing, and it's the first time in the history of the universe that an entire planet will move into another dimension. So if we want to go with it, we have to also change.
Absolutely. You, in your work, you've talked and touched about your communications with the famous seer Nostradamus, who has talked about the power of the group mind to change things, and to change, you know, some of the dire events that he predicted way back when he was around. Now, you believe that we've apparently averted the worst of what Nostradamus has warned about, including the coming of the third Antichrist, although it seems over the last few years there's been so much bad that's gone on in the world, and with these so-called sort of shadow governments and some of these terrible dictators and even some of our own politicians and senators, you would struggle to believe that, you know, some of them weren't connected with some of Nostradamus's, predictions.
But see, what you're talking about is the old Earth. We're separating into the old Earth and the new Earth. The old Earth is where you're finding all that negativity, and we're leaving it. We're moving away from it.
Well, good. We've had enough of it.
Yeah, because that's what people can feel. That's what I meant. They know something definitely is happening, and we are moving away from all of that.
Do you feel, I'm just going to ask you, Dolores, do you feel that the people responsible for the old negativity that's been keeping us in our place, do you feel that they know that there's a change coming?
I think they do, because they're getting a little desperate, I think, to hang on to the old ways. But that's what's happening, is we are changing, and people can feel it. All the negativity, the drama, all of that is remaining with the old Earth. And not everyone is going to be shifting into this new vibration, because you have to change your vibration. Many of them don't want to. They want to stay with the negativity, the drama, and they will stay with what they have created. But that's why there's a separation between the two happening. And there's a lot more to that, but I always tell people when they talk about that, is that happening in your world? You read about it, you hear about it, but is it happening in your world? Is it happening to you? That's the difference. And you make that separation. Well, you know, it's not. I just hear about it, but it's not happening to me. Then you can separate and focus on what's happening in your world. But, yes, I wrote the 3 books on the prophecies of Nostradamus. It was the first time in history that all 1,000 of the quatrains have been interpreted. For 25 years, I lectured on them all over the world. But in the books, we had direct contact with Nostradamus, and in the books, he told me he wanted me to go all over the world and tell people you can change the future. He said, if I tell you the most horrible things you can do to yourself, will you do something to change it? And he wanted me to tell people about the power of their own mind. And if one person's mind is powerful enough to change things, look at the power of group mind. Group mind is so powerful that it is not only multiplied, it is squared. The power is tremendous. If you get groups of people focusing on peace and harmony, that's what we could have. And I've seen it happen in those 25 years. That's why I don't lecture on it anymore, because he talked about nexus points when things had to happen. And from those nexus points, there would be branches branching out to all the probabilities and possibilities of an event. And it depends on you which one of these branches you went down, from the worst result of the event to the least. So he wanted me to have people know they could change this, and then we would go down the least probable future. And that's what we have done, because I've seen it happen now. And in the year 2000, we were supposed to have been in a horrible war in the Middle East. Instead, we were in a war, but it was not as bad as he saw. So I believe we have gone down the other timeline, and we have changed the future. And I can see big differences. Now we're on the alternate futures that he predicted.
I know some of the guys in the studio have got some questions for you as well. Darren, what's your question for Dolores?
Yeah, Dolores, there's the talk of the collective consciousness where masses of people or people have been asked to bring forward light energy, if you like, and help the human race to move forward to the next level, the next step that we need to take as part of this change. And we hear people talk about selected people that were born to do this, for example, star childs and indigo children. Now, I know someone that is a star child, and he is very spiritual. Are these people here, their main purpose is to help us move forward as a human race collectively and consciously to the next level?
That gets us into your work on what you call the 3 waves of volunteers, isn't it, Dolores?
Yes, that's one of my latest books, but that took many, many years to come up with that concept. I had to see thousands and thousands of people before it began to make sense, because I see thousands and thousands of clients in my work. And when you hear the same story again and again and again, you know it has to have something to it. And I began to put it together according to the ages of the people, and that's why I came up with the 3 waves. But you're talking about the collective consciousness. That is the part that I work with. I didn't know how to explain it to you. I just called it the greatest power in the universe. And I found a way to contact it and let it come through all of my clients, no matter who they are, and it gives the same information again and again. But yes, we were headed down the path of destruction of the earth, especially at the time in 1945 when we dropped the atomic bomb. Something had to be done at that time to change that path that we were on. And that's when it was decided to send in the 3 waves of volunteers. The call went out throughout the universe. Earth is in trouble. Who wants to go and help? Now, these people have no conscious memory of doing this. That's what's causing a lot of the problems in their lives. They don't consciously know that they volunteered to be here. It only comes out when we're doing the sessions. But they have volunteered to come, and they don't really want to be here. They don't like Earth. They don't like the violence. They don't understand the people. It's like, why do people have to hurt each other? And they don't understand strong emotions. Strong emotions frighten them because they're not used to it. If they've never been on Earth before, you can see how difficult it is for these people. And they're always telling me, I want to go home. I don't know where home is. I know it's not here. And many of the first wave especially, they're the ones that came in right after the end of World War II, what we call the baby boomer generation.
So your first wave, you're talking about people between, what, the age of 40 into the 60s?
Well, some of them are about the age of 60 now because it happened right at the end of World War II. And now, not everyone in that age group, but some of these were the volunteers, the first ones that blazed the trail and started it all. They're the ones that had the hardest part of adjusting. They don't want to be here. They don't like it here. And the strong emotions frighten them. They want to go home. And those groups, many of them tried to commit suicide to get out because they just didn't want to be here. They did not understand Earth. And I've heard this story so many times. And all of my clients, and I get tons of email. I have my own radio show, and I get tons of emails after that, and also after the book came out. They're saying, now I understand. I'm one of these people. Now it helps me to know I'm here for a reason. And the second wave would be younger. They're now in their 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s. They didn't have it as hard. They're the ones that I call the antennas, the generators, the channelers of energy. They are being sent energy to spread to everyone that will help to raise the earth and to raise the consciousness. But they don't know this consciously either. They don't just know they don't want to be here. And many of these people have it easier, but they'd rather work at home. They usually don't want to get married. They don't like people. But that's the problem. These people have such a wonderful energy. They could walk through a crowded store full of people, and their energy would affect everyone they came in contact with. That's how powerful this energy is. But the paradox is that they don't like people, so they're staying at home.
Now, Dolores, we're going to take a break there. That's the second wave we're talking about. We'll get into the third wave, the new children who are coming into this world with what you say is altered DNA. But stay right there. We'll be back with more from Dolores Cannon next on Planet X.
X marks the spot. This is Planet X on City Talk 105.9.
Welcome back to Planet X. Our special guest in the first hour is Dolores Cannon. She's a hypnotherapist, a psychic researcher, and so much more. Dolores, welcome back to Planet X. I'm guessing while you hung on the phone there, the ads in the UK are slightly different to the ones you get in America.
What do you mean, the apps? What do you mean?
The adverts.
Oh, the commercials?
The commercials.
Oh, yeah, that's what we call them, as commercials.
Commercials.
They are different, but it's all, everybody's trying to promote their products.
Absolutely. Right, listen, we've not got long. These sort of shows fly by, so let's get some more questions in. We've got some general hypnotherapy type questions, which we'll try and get in towards the end. But I wanted to ask you more about the ETs as well, because, we've got to, of course, mention the third wave. We were just building up to that as well, because we've dealt with the first and the second. So let's get into the third wave as well.
Okay, you can't skip them anyway.
No, not the new Indigo children.
Well, they're not really new. They've been here for quite a while. But to finish up the second wave, everyone that comes to see me, they all want to know what is their purpose. What are they here for? And when I get these type of people, and we ask them, what's their purpose, they say you're not going to really have to do anything except be. And they said, well, what do you mean? I want to do something. They said, you are doing something just by being. In other words, they're just here to generate their unique energy so that it affects everyone in the world, everyone they come into contact with. But you got to remember, all these people never know these things consciously, and they have a very hard time adjusting to our chaotic Earth. Now, the third wave, all of our DNA is being changed now. It has been ever since the year 2003. It's all being changed and adjusted so that our vibrations and frequencies can match as the whole planet moves into the other dimension. But it's a gradual process. The new children, we call the third wave, they have come in with their DNA already in place. They're ready to go. The problem is that the people don't understand them because they're so highly advanced. They are way ahead of their teachers, their parents, but they don't understand this, and that's why they try to push them back into the box, to make them conform, where they're way ahead of any of them. I've spoke at conferences just dealing with the new children. You can call them the indigo, but that's just a term somebody came up with because their aura seems to be a different color. We call them the new kids on the block. They're the hope of the world, really, because, some of these children, I saw a documentary on them, 10 years old, and have already finished college. And they're already forming their own organizations. And you know what the organizations are for? To help the children of the world. See, so they're already doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Dolores, can I ask you a quick question about the third wave and these new children that come through? And it's something that we've touched on with various guests in the past. Are they born to more understanding children, more understanding adults, these children?
Well, we hope so, but a lot of the clients I have, they don't understand their children at all. They don't know why are they so different. You may have one child in the family that's different than all the rest because they're the one that is the special children. But the parents have a hard time dealing with them because they don't fit the norm. They're doing things in a different way. And the teachers have problems with them. One thing that I've found when I've been at these conferences with them and they have panels of these children, they understand much faster. They get it. And they said the problems with the school is that they said they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And they said, I got it the first time. Another thing they'll say, the teacher will ask them for the answer to a problem, maybe a math problem. They'll give them the answer. The teacher says, how did you find it? They said, I just knew it. Well, the teacher's not going to accept that. You can see how frustrating this would be to the child. That's why a lot of them act up. It's because they're bored. They're much more advanced. They want to move faster. So if we can understand that, it would help the parents and the educators to understand these type of children. I was told to give them challenges, to give them something else that's different than the rest of the class is doing. That's the answer to it.
Dolores, I think the clock has almost beaten us because I don't want to get you into another subject and then have to cut you off. So before we let you go, fascinating the short amount of time we've had with you, and there's so many other subjects we want to get into. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll come back very soon, maybe in the next month or two, and explore.
I'm going to be in England in a few days.
Oh, wow. Well, we need to talk about that. Whereabouts in England are you going to be?
Well, I'm coming over on Friday. I'm going to give a talk in London, but I believe they said it's already sold out. But after that, I'm giving one of my classes. I'm giving them all over the world. I give classes to teach what I do, and I've taught thousands and thousands of people in all the countries of the world. So I'm going to be doing a class starting next week in Farringdon. I found that was a good place to do it. We get away from crowded London and out in the country. So I've done several classes there.
Okay, well, we'll get those details on the website, and if people want to get in touch and come to see you while you're in the UK, is that a possibility?
Well, I won't have time just to visit with people because I'm extremely busy when I'm over there.
No, I mean with your workshops, are they completely sold out, or is there a chance that they can still book on?
If they're interested in taking a class to learn what I do, they can make a career out of it. And the classes, I believe, are getting full, but I don't think they're totally full yet. But they can contact on my website. They can find out more about that.
Okay.
But this is our only class in Europe this year.
Well, we will.
I was over there last year for 3 months, and I did a different country every week. I had a class. And I was in China 3 times and everywhere. But this year, I'm going to more and more countries, so I can only be in Europe 1 time. That's this next week.
Well, Dolores, we will get in touch with your people, and we'll get all the relevant information on our website on planetxlive.co.uk, and we will definitely get you back very soon to talk some more about some of the fascinating subjects that we've not even touched on. But before we let you go, is there anything you want to leave with the listeners?
Okay, I thought we were going for another hour.
No, that's it. We're out of time, unfortunately.
2 hours, they said. So I thought we had plenty of time.
No, we're out of time. We only got the 1 hour. Sorry, Dolores. But you will come back on, though, won't you?
If you can catch me between trips, because I can talk on anything you want to talk about.
I think we've realised that, yeah. And there's loads of things and lots of questions that have come through that we've not had a chance to throw at you. But before you do go, is there anything you want to say to the listeners, and anything you want to publicise or plug?
Well, that was the only thing, is that I'll be over there for my class. But because, see, I found a totally different way of hypnosis that I've developed over these 45 years. And it's a very fast way to go into the deepest possible level of trance, contact the mass consciousness you were speaking to. And we not only get all the information we want, but we also have instant healing in one session. So doctors and hospitals are also using this method all over the world. So this is my main job now, in addition to writing more books and lecturing and traveling, is I'm teaching this to everyone. And we also are having it online.
Sounds like...
So if they're interested, they can contact my website.
Sounds like there's no chance of you slowing down anytime soon, Dolores.
No, there isn't. I've got tons of work to do.
Absolutely brilliant speaking to you. We will get in touch with your people and get all the relevant information on our website, and we will get you back on, and we'll do a 2-hour show next time, okay?
All right, and thanks for asking me.
Thank you, Dolores. Bye now.
Thank you.
Dolores Cannon, brilliant. What a girl. We will, as I say, we will get her back on, and there's so much more to go at. I mean, one of the subjects I wanted to touch on was her beliefs that ETs seeded Earth, created humans, and have become like a kind of almost a watcher, watching over us. But interesting stuff. What are your thoughts?
That I follow that notion completely, and I'm not alone on that, because you've got to go back through history, and I've talked about it before, that there was a change in our DNA 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Something happened to the human race, and it has to be interaction from a higher species.
And and this is one of the things that Dolores has covered in her research and in her books, but we will definitely get her back on to talk more about that in the not too distant future. Coming up in the next hour, though, we're speaking to James Rink, the super soldier. Stick about. It's going to be a very interesting ride, as it usually is on Planet X. And if you want to get in touch with the show, then please do it through citytalk.fm, or you can get us on our website, planetxlive.co.uk. Back with more from James Rink on Planet X after the news.
This is Planet X on City Talk 105.9.
This is City Talk 105.9.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Do not be afraid. We are now in control of what you hear.
1, 2, 3, testing.
A journey to the far reaches of knowledge and the unknown.
I can't believe I just saw that.
From aliens to angels, conspiracies to cover-ups.
One soul and preeminent power.
From extraterrestrials to exposing the truth.
I'll try to explain as much as I can.
You're listening to Planet X.
You're listening to Planet X.
Planet X, exclusive to City Talk 105.9.
Good evening, I'm Neil Atkinson. Welcome back to Planet X. Joined in the studio tonight by David Lloyd is back in with us, and also Darren Perks, and we're going to be talking about James Rink, the super soldier. And I guarantee if you stick around for the next hour or so, you're going to be blown away by some of the stuff we're going to talk about. If we get through the next hour, because while the news was on there, we've just had all kinds of weird technical issues, haven't we? We were originally going to do the interview on Skype. Normally works fine. This time, not happening.
No, something's something's gremlins is probably a better word, but
Okay, well, nothing controversial about that. No conspiracies there. Skype and computers can malfunction, I suppose. But while we were just setting up the interview, there we go.
Yeah.
While we were just setting up the interview, somebody keeps, from an external source, keeps fiddling with the microphones and dropping our microphones.
Yeah.
It's weird.
it's high strangeness again.
Yeah,
It's
isn't it?
happening.
So whoever is listening from whatever agency, good evening and welcome. Let's see how far we get with this interview then. James Rink, the super soldier, David Lloyd, set this one up for us.
Well, we're going to be talking to James Rink tonight, Agent Sabretooth. Now, James was said to be born in a test tube. He's not even sure of his actual age. It could be 33 or 37. He was given to a family part of Project Surrogate. Apparently, these genetically enhanced soldiers do better above ground than below in the DUMS, the deep underground military bases. So we'll be talking to James tonight about implants, the trip chair, and a lot of other fantastic subjects. I mean, it's going to blow your mind what he's going to be talking about today. I'd just say to all the listeners, please have an open mind. James has also got about 65 videos on YouTube, and these are full-length videos, an hour and a half, and the interviews with all different sorts of people in the same situation. We have super soldiers in the UK as well, and in different places around the world. So let's see what James has got to say.
Let's go live to the States now. James, are you there? Welcome to Planet X.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for letting me come on the show.
Hey, listen, it's great. I don't know how long the interview's going to last, whether they'll let you speak for the whole entire show. There we go. We're getting lots of interference already there. And, of course, we mentioned Skype not working tonight. It usually does. And straight away when we called you on the phone, you said, that's probably got something to do with me.
Well, this isn't the first time this has happened. There's actually been some other shows that I've done, and the audio got corrupted. Actually, this happened like 2 to 3 times, and each time the people say that it's never happened before. And of course, when I was doing those shows, that was actually in correlation with the Super Soldier Summit in Las Vegas. So it wasn't just me; it was like a panel of super soldiers. But either way, there are certain people. Well, I don't even know if you want to call them people, forces that don't want you to know about this. But that's okay. That's their choice. We're going to choose to bring this information out to the public.
Okay. Well, it's going to be a fascinating talk if we do manage to get all the information out. Still, somebody's messing with my microphone. Just for a lot, I mean, we do have quite a knowledgeable audience, but for some of our newer listeners who are just sort of coming to this sort of subject, may not know what a super soldier is, may not know much about you. And I know David summarised a little bit, but tell us more about you and the whole super soldier program.
Well, all right. So we have to first of all make a distinction here because, of course, I know you've probably seen the Jason Bourne series. Now, that may give you an idea of a certain extent of what is going on. But that would be more on the military side of this. Of course, there are monarchs where they can take a child at a young age and program them in, say, a military base and do electroshock treatments and shatter the mind, create alters. But when we say a super soldier, what these beings are, they're basically ETs created by, I believe, the reptilians and the Greys, and they are used for their soldier program. And what happens is the military just gets their hands on us, and they torture us and traumatize us and use us. So really, the military doesn't know how to make most of the super soldiers that the military has produced are basically defects, and a lot of them are just live shattered lives. I mean, all you got to do is look at Charles Manson, you know. But so
this is almost like back engineering a crashed UFO, if you like.
Oh yeah.
But with a human.
Yeah. So they basically borrow us, and they can't. I mean, I think we're under divine protection, so I don't think they can just go out and start knocking us off if we start getting all our memories back. But I think there have been individuals that I have worked with in the past and actually this is part of my self-awakening process, that have been able to get all their memories, well, a good deal of their memories back, and have rebelled. And what they do with these guys is they wipe all their memories, and then they insert them into a new family, and then they don't remember anything about their previous life. And I believe they did that to me, although I don't think it was when I rebelled. I mean, this information is based on through remote viewing, so I can't really, you know, I'm only speculating here what's going on. But as far as when in the introduction you mentioned that I'm not sure I'm not quite sure what my age is, and the reason why I say that is because through remote viewing, now I'm pretty sure that this guy that I worked with, because I've actually done multiple remote viewing sessions with various people, and we all come up with the same kind of answers, which is I was part of Project Surrogate, Project Name Recovery, and my date of birth is blacked out. Now, I was born in 1980, at least officially anyway, and it was always kind of curious to me, why would it say blacked out? I mean, that shouldn't be secret. I mean, I know when I was born. And through remote viewing, what we're basically able to gather is that I was born, I guess, in around 1976, I think April. And then they raised me, I was raised in an underground base for 4 years, and then they de-aged me and then inserted me into a surrogate family, which goes into Project Surrogate. And I'm only speculating here, so I can't really confirm if any of these, because obviously I don't remember any of that from that age period of my life. But apparently, from what I was told anyway, my biological father is a Palladian reptilian hybrid, or halfling. And apparently there was some kind of battle. He killed some kind of high-ranking Draco overlord or something, general. And he was captured, and then he was brought down to underground base, and they made him, they made some offspring from him. And I was one of them, and and apparently he's back with his star family, so he's okay. But they took out their anger on me, and apparently my brother, who later died. But so I don't know what to say about all that, but it's a pretty wild story. But,
yeah, I mean, I told you at the start of the show it's going to be pretty unbelievable stuff, and already we're straight into it. I know the boys have got loads of questions, so who wants to go first, Dave?
James, you know, it said that 97% of our DNA is said to be junk DNA, but most, enlightened people realise that it's not junk; it's just not switched on. Do you think that that's what's happened to you from obviously when you were created? That
okay, well, that's
genetically
a good point.
modified your DNA.
Well, all of us are holographic copies of each other. We're all, I mean, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, the Lord is one, and literally we're all fragments of God. So all of us really have the same DNA. Now, the reason why I say that is because some of us have certain codons activated within this dimension that makes us appear like a earthworm or a 12-foot-tall reptilian. So, you can literally activate some of those dormant DNA codons and become whoever you want to be.
Yeah. See, one of the most interesting things I've thought about is you only look about 16 or 17, and yet you must be in your 30s, mustn't you?
Oh, you're commenting about my age. Yeah, well, that's a good... Yeah, I know. Apparently, I don't age.
The reason why I said that, because one of the ways that we age is that the telomeres on the end of your DNA get shorter and shorter. Now, I watched one of your videos with Dan McCoblin. Is that how you pronounce his name? And he was... And he was saying that with the use of Ormus and a certain frequency, I think it was 540 nanometers, they can actually lengthen the telomeres, so you may live longer. I wonder whether they've done that to you.
Well, if they have, I don't really recall, but I know I'm getting injections on a daily basis. I had a little tiny one this morning, but usually they're little 10 pricks in my lips, or sometimes they're geometric shapes.
James, I actually watched that video this morning with was it Jim Scott at the Amash, and he actually had a little cut on, I don't know what it was on his lip or his arm, which was a triangle the same as yours.
Yeah, he I guess he grabbed that from my blog or wherever. I don't know where he got it, but yeah, that was on my leg, and some of them look like little triangular shaped, like three-pronged needle marks, but some are triangular shaped scabs. And even one time, and I know this isn't psychosomatic. I mean, it couldn't be psychosomatic, right? I mean, one time, I think this was 2007. Because I was getting triangular-shaped scabs in my nose on a daily day, literally pretty close to a daily basis. And then on Valentine's Day in 2007, it was a heart. And I was like, what is this? This is really bizarre. So I've never got any weird things, like a heart before or after that. But there's obviously some kind of sentient life or something behind it.
See, one of my theories when you were talking about this, how is this happening? Because sometimes it's happening up to 3 times a day. I was wondering whether you get any synthetic telepathy. I know you've got a certain buzz or tune that can bring one of your ulcers out. Whether something's happening where one of your ulcers is coming out and you're actually giving the needle to yourself.
That's curious. It's curious you mentioned that. Like, how do they do this? I'm not quite sure because I don't recall how they actually get on me. However, what I have been able to put together through, I guess you could say, through remote viewing, is that basically they either they're telekinetic. There's maybe someone in an underground base somewhere using telekinesis, and then I guess you could say a form of teleportation to inject something into me. Another theory is that they're actually ejection points where there's something, they did something to me. I don't know if we have time to go into what they did, the modifications, but it's basically they put an implant in me that's drugging me all the time. And so the benevolent ETs are taking me up on their hospital ships, and they put me in this bed, and it's actually pulling these toxins out of my body, and these are the injection points. And the reason why they choose my lip is because that's where the tissue actually heals the fastest in the body, externally anyway. So that's another theory. Of course, then again, maybe they come in through different dimensions. They stop time, or maybe they don't stop time. Maybe they activate me into a trance and pull me out. And it's really kind of hard to say. Maybe it's all the above.
James, we're going to have to leave it there for a second. We're going to take a break, but it's fascinating stuff already. We're going to go even deeper when we come back next on Planet X. Stay right there.
Planet X. The truth is on air. City Talk 105.9.
Welcome back to Planet X. The truth is definitely on air tonight. We're getting already some very juicy stuff from our special guest, James Rink, who is on the line live from the States. My special Planet experts tonight are David Lloyd and also Darren Perks. James, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about lots of interesting stuff. I know David talked about altars. Do you want to just go into a bit more, in detail? Because, again, some of our listeners might not know what that's about.
Well, it seems some of these poor people go through some horrific things, and they give them shock treatments and different sorts of visual things that they have to look at, and it fractures the mind, and it sends them into what they call altars. So it's like having different compartments, and one compartment wouldn't know what the other one was doing. I think that's basically it.
Is that something that you've experienced, James?
Well, I've been told I have altars. As far as have I actually blacked out and turned into an altar? I don't think exactly works like that for me. Most of these altars all these altars are created when you're a child, because they need to shatter the mind when you're still before your ego states develop. And so when you switch into these altars, they are often they take on a childlike personality. Now, of course, some children, when you tell a child to do something, they go out and do it. And it's the same way with you were making orders to a soldier to go out and kill someone, they would do it. So that's kind of why they like to use those kind of altars, so to speak, to do things. As far as how many altars I have, I really don't know for sure. I mean, I've been told I have about 5 altars, and what is their name? I believe maybe one of them could be Agent Sabretooth, but then again, I really don't know for sure. I need to do more integration work on that to really comment.
Okay, let's get a bit deeper into the whole alien agenda, if you like, the ETs. You mentioned at the start of the show that, let me see if I can get this right, your supposed father was a Pleiadian half-breed with another, was it the reptilian?
Yes.
Just run us through that again.
Okay. Well, basically, most reptilians are extremely, I would say, they're carnivorous and they're aggressive and they're not very of the white light. But there are a few reptilian species that are, and for whatever reason, these Pleiadians allow them to come into their society and they crossbred, and then, of course, you get some hybrid offspring from that. But there was some kind of battle or war, galactic war, and the reptilians started infiltrating the Pleiadian society, and somehow my biological father got caught in all that. Have I met him? No, I haven't met him physically. I believe in astral he's keeping, or at least in a way he's keeping me alive, and that's the reason why I'm able to speak about these kind of things. And so my star family is definitely there, and I hope I answered that question. I don't even remember what the question was now.
No, I'm fascinated by it. Now, a lot of people, of course, relate the Pleiadians to the Nordic types, the good-looking, the blonde-haired type alien, who are generally seen as the good guys, aren't they? Who are, as far as you know, who are the benevolent and who are the malevolent of the races out there?
Well, good question. Okay, so certainly there are a lot of reptilians, especially if you start looking at the Dracos and all the way, I guess below them, the soldier caste and the scientist caste, they sort of have to fall line. Of course, there are some grays, and I like to think there are some grays out there that are very benevolent and loving, so we have nothing against the grays, but there are some groups of grays that are a dying race, and they some claim that they're actually time travelers. They're actually from the future. They were created as a slave race in the future, and they're coming back in time. Not many people know this. They're coming back to this particular time to change that so they don't become enslaved. But in the process, they're just nobody's going to like them because of what they're doing, all these genetic experiments, and so they're messing around. But I'm sure there are other groups of species out there that maybe are not so much of the like. But I think most ETs are. You don't get to be a Class 2 or Class 3 civilization and start doing intergalactic travel unless you know how to get along with your neighbors.
This is a field that fascinates one of our planet experts, Darren. Darren, I know you've got loads of questions for James.
Yeah, James, it's fascinating you talk about, say, you touched on wars. One of the things in the UK, and I'm sure in the US as well, you may have come across it, is the so-called Solar Warden secret space program. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Solar Warden? You mean you're talking about U.S. Space Command?
Yeah, exactly. And this is a program that has drawn some very interesting comparisons over the years, and a lot of us have looked into it, connected with basically. I see a connection possibly with the Super Soldier program and this sort of secret space program where we could be in some kind of galactic war, for example, or some kind of galactic program where we're physically stopping negative or dark extraterrestrial beings from, say, not attacking Earth, but coming here when they shouldn't be. And do you think maybe from, I don't know, through your experiences, that there could be some sort of program that's connected to the Super Soldier one as well?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I really can't comment on what Solar Warden is doing or not because I don't really know. But, I mean, I think that would be a safe assumption that they are working to try to protect the planet. But then again, I also know that Space Command is connected to my labs, and they're also connected to the negative reptilians and grays. So whose agenda are they really protecting? I somehow I don't think they're necessarily protecting the will of humanity. It's more like the status quo.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Solar Warden, it's such a huge subject, but and I know I'm going to link it into your knowledge of the moon bases, and I know one of your colleagues, and Dave that's with us will know more about this. Nathan, your good friend, he and yourself have had friends that were on a moon base, so to speak, weren't they?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was that information was relayed to me through a 12-foot tall reptilian named Tian. He was a scientist. He claimed to work with my biological father. But the story. Should I talk about Nathan? What happened?
Yes, please. James.
Okay. All right. Briefly, because I don't want to take up the whole time talking about Nathan, but back in 2005, when I didn't know anything really about super soldiers. My friend Nathan Wilder, he's very gifted, clairvoyant psychic. He could see aura. He had telekinetic abilities. And I started investigating UFOs and super soldiers. I just came across something, and I didn't, at that time I didn't really take it seriously because I was new to all this. And I just joked to my friend Nate. I said, "Hey, maybe you're a super soldier." And next thing I know, his altars start coming out. They spill the beans about him being taken to military bases, being experimented on, tested on. He claimed he grew up in a telepathic colony for the first 3 years of his life. And then, so what I did is I worked with his altars to have him, I guess you could say, use his ability for self-defense. And then 2 months later, there was a series of conversations back and forth, but eventually what happened is he told me that he destroyed the Greys' monetary system. He killed some of the Greys, and then he said he destroyed 1,800 planets. And then the last message that I had with him was that he was in some kind of cell, and I guess in some facility, and he was holding a power cord, and he said he was telecommunicating, I guess using telepathy through the electrical power cord into the power grid, into the internet to communicate to me. And he said the government was killing him, and that I won't see him again. Fast forward 2 years later, I finally find him. He claims he doesn't remember me, and he says he has a strong altar and that I need to move on, and then that doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of other really bizarre things that also happened around that time.
Because you were close friends, weren't you, James?
Yeah, we were we were good friends. And so what happened, I guess, fast forward to 2010, I came in contact with Tian, and Tian was basically, I wouldn't consider it a channeled message. It was my friend, who I believe is my biological brother, or at least I had, from the same stock of clone hybrids or embryos. He started, basically Tian took him over and started telling me about all the experiments that I was involved with, and he basically violated protocol by communicating with a human, which they're not supposed to do. But he did it anyway because I guess my free will has been violated so often. And Tian is the one who told me that Nathan was on the dark side of the moon in some kind of facility. I can pull up the name of the facility. It's like Alpha something. But he said that Alpha 9 or something. He said that he was being placed in the trip. Well, I call it trip chair, but it's trip seat or whatever you want to call it. The brainwash, mind control, total recall chair. And they were erasing all his memories, and that if I ever did see him again, he would never remember me.
James, could you maybe cover the subject of implants? Because Dan tested you for implants, and it appears you have quite a few.
Okay. Well, all right. Good point. Well, I do have this little rod-shaped object in my ear, and I did look at, I guess you could call it reflexology, but there's reflexology that corresponds to your ear. And I believe that part of my ear was connected to something that had to do with my intestinal tract or that part of my body. And I have a lot of intestinal problems, digestion problems, but I think a lot of that is trauma. So as far as other implants, I've seen little objects in my body, and some of these objects have come out. I have saved some of them. They're just they look like little splinters now. they could be little fiber optics as far as what they do. I mean, I can only guess. Maybe they connect me up to satellite telemetry. Maybe they're used for mind control, or the monitoring of all my biological physiology. Now, I have been told that basically they put like some kind of membrane over my pineal gland to prevent me from accessing I guess you could say, the superhuman abilities. And I should also mention about that because if you look at me, I don't look like a standard super soldier, or at least what you would consider that in your mind. And what they actually do is they're having these so-called alters. One of them, or anyway, is being projected into a clone body, like in the movie was it Avatar?
Avatar, yeah. Mm.
Okay, well that's what they're actually called Cybus and Arbus, these clone bodies, and so I'm kind of jumping around here. Yeah. So
have you got multi-clones? Have you, James?
Yeah. I've done some work, done some remote viewing on that, and one of these bases, we went down in there, and we saw like a tank. And we looked inside this tank. Let me say, it wasn't a tank. It looked like a cryogenics freezer storage tube. And there was a long corridor. And so we looked in the window, each one of these tubes, and there was a clone of me, and then there was another clone of me, and another clone of me, and we kept. I don't know, maybe like the fifth or sixth clone. We didn't want to look anymore. So,
one of the interesting points that I got from the interview with Aaron Ortiz was that he reckoned that there was one super soldier for 2,000 clones. So it begs the question: how many super soldiers is there? There must be an army of clones just waiting to be activated.
Okay, well, what you just mentioned is like one super soldier controlling 2,000 Cybus or Arbus avatars. I'm assuming that's kind of what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't really know how many clone bodies we have. I mean, they are very expensive. Of course, I believe it's cost anywhere between $700,000 to $7 million per clone body, depending on whether they're a prototype or whatnot. And it's not just, and also they don't just clone us. They clone our family members. They clone our friends. They like to keep us all in the family, as they like to say.
It's scary stuff. Stay right there, James. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back with more on Planet X next.
From extraterrestrials to exposing the truth, this is Planet X on City Talk 105.9.
Welcome back to Planet X. A fascinating second half of the show tonight with James Rink, the super soldier. There's loads of great stuff, isn't there, on James, on YouTube? And we're going to put all the links, if we haven't already done it, I'm not sure. I'm sure we got a lot of the links on the website, but we're going to get them on Facebook as well. But there's a lot of good stuff out there, isn't there?
Oh, there's 65 videos.
65, there you go.
And counting. I've waded through about 14 or 15, but I just find it's mesmerising. An hour flashes by, and James does 1.5 hour, 2.5 hour videos. Yeah. Time is just endless,
James, I've got to ask. I mean, we're very open-minded on this show, but you must get a lot of closed-mind people, the skeptics, a lot of people trying to discredit what you say. What sort of stick do you get?
I've been dealing with that for many, many years. Even right after Nathan went missing, let me back up. Right around after I helped Nathan break free, I started getting needled every day, needle marks and cut marks and scratches. And after Nathan went missing in March 2005. And then from that point on, I had some more weird things go on, like phone calls from the National Institutes of Health. They wanted to do some profiling on me, and just some other really bizarre stuff, like my mailbox was destroyed twice, and the car was egged, and windows were broken. It's like, what the hell is this? And then I started getting these really dizzy spells. So I called 911, and I went to the hospital, of course, in the United States, that send the ambulance out and take you to the hospital. And they couldn't find any blood. I mean, they couldn't find any poison in my blood or urine, so they put me in observation. At that point, I told the doctor Well, there were some other things that happened that I think I might be a victim of government mind control, and they locked me in the psych ward for 3 weeks.
Oh, dear.
Terrible.
And so that's the price I had to pay, and that amp cost me about $25,000. And so I went in. I've had to deal with basically, if you talk, and I was told actually the MIB were injecting me with hallucinogens. But sometimes this is the price you have to pay to be a truth teller. And I could have went into fear, but the only option I have is to speak my truth because I'm getting needled every day.
Yeah.
And if these people want to come out and say, James, oh, you're crazy. Well, that's their choice. But I'm getting needled every day. I suffer from fatigue and all these health problems, and you people don't even care. You don't want to know. So at this point, I've sort of just like given up on them. So my videos are mostly focused on other people, finding others like me, so that we can network and maybe together we can help bring this stuff out, because I can't do it alone.
Oh, the mics are dropping out again. There's things going on in the studio. We've not got a lot of time, and I know Darren's got a few more questions for you. Off you go, Darren.
Yeah, James, you're quite right with what you say. It's about finding out the truth and the knowledge. And one of the things that fascinates me is people like yourself. They don't get full access to medical records, and I know you've talked about in the past about you're not allowed to see your MRI scans. Do you think this whole thing about the Men in Black and the government spies? We know that it goes on. In the US, in the UK, in Europe, and the rest of the world. Is it some? Oh. Sorry, my mic dropped it. See, I'm talking about the the MIBs and it's happening. But yeah, do you think it's something that is constant and is targeted to groups of people? I mean, I know they target yourself, and maybe they target people like us that are finding the truth and are spreading the knowledge. And are spreading the knowledge about the truth. My mic went again. Tell us about your views on the Men in Black. It's a real thing. We know that, but it's.
Well, the Men in Black, they're actually created by the reptilians and the negative grays, and basically what they do is they take hormones from cows and they genetically engineer it in a vat and create basically this synthetic life form. Yeah. And then they use computers to insert memories. Memories and really programming. So all they are is just like a piece of. Just view them as a piece of steak, because that's all they are.
Oh, yes.
There are different stories about that. I mean, I don't know if we have time to talk about the MIB, but literally, they already do psychological profiling. They know everything about you. They can pull it all up on satellite telemetry, read your aura. They know everything about you, how you can tick. So they go in there and they look for people that can be intimidated. So if you don't have fear, and they come up and harass you, blah, blah, et cetera, and you don't do what they expect, it totally confuses them. And they may try to psychically attack you, but that's why you ask your guardian angels and guides of the white light to protect you.
That's interesting, because we hear a lot about, these entities and these aliens, and you're one of the few who talks about, guardian angels and the white light. You seem to have a very spiritual aspect to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of have to. I mean, I don't. I've dealt with forces that are not so of the light, but you know what? I guess we're all different shades of God, I guess you can say.
What about the aliens? I mean, do they have a belief system? Do they have a religion? Do they believe in a higher being?
Well, I believe so, but I think they believe more in a cosmic consciousness, as if. Think of God as an ocean of water, and each soul is a molecule in that ocean. That makes any sense.
Yeah. I know Dave's got another question. One last one, Dave.
Okay, it's just a quick one. One of the most interesting things I watched you on YouTube today, actually, was the information Heather got from Project Camelot, which was talking about KTL White.
Yeah, the KTL White info.
But all the I know it can't be substantiated, but all the information that was given with it seemed to be like to stop getting viruses on different planets. And he was talking about off-world populations, and he was actually giving figures and numbers, percentages, and as if we've got bases all over the place.
Right. Well, yeah, there are documents out there. KTLY is one of them. That literally, I mean, you have to know it's written in code words. So if you don't know the terminology, you're gonna just look at it and it doesn't make any sense. But if you do know, if you can decipher it, then there are documents out there. And even on some, like if you go on DARPA's website, you could find some information about this as well. So it's in the public sector. You just got to know where to look for it and understand it.
James, have you got your NeoCube handy by any chance?
Yeah. Do you want me to do a meditation or something?
How long have we got to...
Well, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes before we need to wrap up. And first of all, we just need to explain what the NeoCube is.
Yeah,
what is the NeoCube?
Yeah. All right. Well, the NeoCube is a meditation unit. It helps bring chi energy in your body, and it helps alter timelines using the law of attraction, or really the law of magnetism. Really, that's real quick. Correct. The website is neologicaltech.com, and NeoLogicalTech. All right, so enough of that. I don't want to take up...
No, hang on. I need to go back to that. Is it you can actually buy these things?
Yes. You can, and I do sell a lot of them in the UK. So. Okay.
We'll have a look at that in a little while, but we'll get the links again on our Facebook page. But yeah, go on, tell us about the NeoCube.
Yeah, so the inventor that I worked with actually was he was actually kidnapped by the Cabal and taken to an underground base, and they changed him out of a clone. So and that story would take another hour probably to talk about. So literally, there have been forces trying to oppose this, but they do work, and I've been using it to help integrate myself. And again, it's a meditation tool. You put it on your lap while meditating, and it helps. I believe it helps disrupt the nanites, because that's one of the things they're putting. I mean, the ejection, they're actually small, microscopic nanobots that connect with your protein and your codons in your DNA. So you can use consciousness energy, such as meditation, to interrupt that. So, all right.
I'm going to say the last hour is flown by... Oh, there we go. There goes my mic again. The last hour has flown by. We've managed to get through without too much interference from whoever is messing around.
Are we going to have time?
We're not going to have time for that. But what I am going to say is that we will continue the interview online. So if you want to go to planetxlive.co.uk, we can continue with possibly a meditation and carry on talking to James. There we go. Hang on. Right, I think we're back on. But, James, I've got to say a big thank you for coming on. We've literally, and we do this with a lot of our guests, and I always find myself saying this, but we've only just scratched the surface with your story and some of the incredible stuff you've been telling us about. Can we get you back on in the next couple of months and talk some more?
I would love that. And also, if you can book a ticket, come to the Super Soldier Summit. That's supersoldiersummit.com. It's in Las Vegas in May 17th, 18th, 19th. And also visit my blog at supersoldiertalk.com.
I know Darren's eyes have just, sort of lit up. He's scribbling away.
Vegas,
baby.
Vegas is a great place.
Yeah. We'd love to come out. I don't think I can make it, but I'm sure Darren might be able to get over. Do they do this every year?
Yeah, well, we're trying to. This is the second year, and there's a lot of opposition, obviously, but we're going to keep going no matter what.
Well, listen, we did our first one, the Planet X conference just recently. So if we can get you over for next year's, that would be absolutely fantastic.
I'm open to that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, listen, stay there because we're going to talk some more online. But for now, thank you, James Rink, the Super Soldier.
Planet X on City Talk 105.9.
Okay, James Rink there. Wow, guys, what a fascinating guy.
That was mind-blowing. What a fascinating person to speak to, and such an out-there subject. I think it'll raise a few eyebrows. People will go with it and people won't go with it. So.
Now, we're going to talk to him, obviously, online in just a few minutes. If you'd like to join us, feel free to do so. It's planetxlive.co.uk. And where are we going to take him with the online stuff?
I think we're going to go a bit more in depth into what it really is, Super Soldier specifics. And I know, Dave, you've got a few things you wanted to ask him.
Yeah, I mean, actually, how does the mind get fragmented? I think we'd be talking tonight about the trip chair and also some of the different projects he was involved in.
Now, if some of our listeners aren't aware with the trip chair, tell us more
a trip
about
chair is something that you can be put in, and he says it's something like an alien chair that's used in UFOs, and it can be used for different things to fragment the mind. So we can put you on a virtual reality tour, maybe going through a battle scenario or some scenario where you get hurt and you're tortured in other ways. And so it seems so real, and this is what fragments the mind.
And you're quite interested in the whole, is it Basiago? I always get his name wrong.
Andrew Basiago.
Basiago, that's it. Now, this is a very interesting guy who reckons that he's going to be the next president of the United States, and it's all going to sort of culminate around the date is 2015.
Yeah, well, he's actually standing as an independent candidate in 2016 for the presidency of the United States. And he was told by Manchester in an office in 1981 that the guy sitting next to him would be president one day, and that was Barry Soweto.
Who is, a.k.a.?
Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And the guys who were standing behind him, one of them was dad and one was his father, who was in the military. And the other officer said, "We've also got a second president in the office here." And that was Andrew Basiago.
So anyway, that's more with James Rink online at planetxlive.co.uk in just a few minutes. Before we go, we never really got time, and I've only got a couple of minutes now. But there was a big thing in the States called the Citizens' Hearings, and we'll try and do more on that next week. But guys, if you would just want to explain in just a couple of minutes, if you can, what went on in the States over in Washington last week.
Well, it was a really big event. What you had was some ex-senators in the United States government, and it was set up as a proper hearing, if you like, or tribunal in a courtroom. And there was guest speakers from the likes of Gary Heseltine, Nick Pope, Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, and some doctors and some physicists. And they all spoke over the week at various points on various subjects within the UFO sort of phenomenon and what surrounds it. It was to aware. What I should say, it was to sort of create a bigger awareness to the ufology subject as a whole. They touched on old subjects such as Roswell, the Rendlesham Forest incident. They touched on pilots' reports, and it was in a ploy to try and get the mainstream media to recognise more the UFO subject and the work that people do, like investigators and researchers and people in the media that try and move this subject forward. The outcome will probably create some waves in mainstream media. The idea, I think, for the Paradigm Research Group and Steve Bassett that set it up was maybe to try and force some type of policy or legislation change. If that happens, that's great. You just never know with these things. But there were a lot of people that went and listened to it all week, and there's been positive and negative feedback on it. So we just watch this space, I think.
Absolutely. We're out of time, but if you'd like to know more about that, there's tons of it on YouTube, so go and have a look. There's some really good stuff on there. Citizens' Hearings, if you'd like to know more. And we'll try and do more about that with some of the guests that you've mentioned there who've been on Planet X, of course, in the past. We'll try and get some of them on who were actually there live to talk about how it went for them. But that's next week on Planet X. In the meantime, have yourselves a great week, and remember, we'll be back here next week from 8 o'clock when The Truth is on air. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Phil. City Talk 105.9. City Talk 105.9.
This doesn't look like an animal that we are familiar with, and it started the whole Bigfoot mystery off again, and it's just fascinating, and more and more as we go on seems to be coming up, and that's on the forum. We've also recently had it was in the media, it was on the TV, the Glasgow UFO incident. We've had a brilliant case in the last week or so of a pilot on approach to Glasgow Airport on the 2nd of December in 2012. This report's just been made public. Him and his crew have seen a blue and yellow object literally on a head-on collision with the aircraft at 3,500 feet to the east of Glasgow. It was officially reported, and we did some digging into it. We spoke to Glasgow Airport, and the key thing here is Glasgow Airport said they reported it to the MOD. the MOD apparently don't look at UFO incidents anymore. Well, so that again is on the forum, and there's a few maps on there. A new plasma device has been developed by scientists, and what we have here, we're talking about plasma energy, which is to be considered as the holy grail of energy generation and storage. And what they're trying to do is trying to develop some sort of plasma energy system that can be incorporated around human beings and can operate within 2 feet of us without giving off any radiation or harmful effects. So that's quite an interesting one. And this is fascinating. This has been on the TV as well. The world's smallest robot has been built, and these things are tiny, tiny flies, and they are real robots. They work at the moment from a tether, but they're small enough to be able to carry a camera and different bits of spy tech, and they actually mimic the wing beats of real life mosquitoes and flies at I think it's 200 beats per minute, and it just shows how much technology now is advancing at a quick pace. In 5 years' time, God knows, we might be having robotic birds sitting on your bird table, in the garden. And the last thing is the weather. What is going on with the weather? And we're no stranger to things happening in the weather. But give a thought to Italy. They had a supercell storm on the 3rd of May, and literally they had huge, the biggest tornadoes that you would only expect to get in the Midwest in the States, and hailstones bigger than baseballs, and it created thousands of pounds worth of damage, and something is going on
at a rink. Now, James is a meditation practitioner, he's a researcher, he's an author, he's a film producer, and through his Super Soldier Talk video series, he's helped awaken humanity to the secret activities of what he calls the covert government, uncovering topics such as brainwashing, trauma, and something called MIDLABS, which apparently stands for military abductions and covert harassment, all of which he's had to endure his entire life as a product of Project Surrogate and Ultra MK Milab Super Soldier experimentation. His book Lone Wolf chronicles these very projects, and I know that Dave Lloyd, who's here tonight, you followed his work quite a lot over the course of the last few years, haven't you?
He's made quite a lot of videos, actually. I think he's up to about 66 videos now, where he's actually interviewed other people who believe that they're in the same position, and through regression, they're trying to help each other out. What they're trying to do, they're trying to get the memories back, because the minds are fragmented. They're only getting bleed through, so they're only getting portions of what's actually happened, and try and find out if it's a reality and what's really going on behind the scenes. Because if it is what's going on, what James says it is, it's absolutely awesome. And we're talking about alien involvement, alien technology, and some nasty stuff.
We're also talking about change, because there's been some nasty stuff going on where we are now. A lot of people, in the spiritual community and in the sort of world that we work within Planet X, are kind of saying that there is a change around the corner. 2013, a lot of people were saying it's an awakening. And he deals with change. He says that change is on the horizon. And there's a 3-hour video documentary covering a variety of topics, delving into, if the whole alien thing is too much for you, he delves into things which is, relevant to what's going on in everyone's life, to do with banking, finance, constitutional law, and something called NESRA as well, which is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. Dave, do you want to elaborate more on that?
Yeah, he made a cracking film. The name escapes me right now because I've seen that many of his videos. But he doesn't do things by half, James, either. His videos are always 2 hours long, or an hour and a half, hour and 3/4. But I've been wading my way through it, and it's such interesting information. What he's basically saying, if they can get rid of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve is a private...
Conscious awareness. So, all sounds good. Food for thought, and, it sounds like it's all going to be a very interesting debate with Dolores. She's on, as I say, after the first break, within the next 5 or 10 minutes. If you'd like to get in touch, it's a very interactive show. If you've never listened before, you'll know it's a very interactive show here on Planet X. And there's loads of different ways that you can either get in touch with us, get in touch with our Planet experts, or indeed the guests. Now, probably the first place to start is with City Talk's very own website. So you can go to the website there and get all the details there. It's citytalk.fm. You can also get us on planetxlive.co.uk. You can get us on the text, which is as simple as sending a text and starting your text message with the word talk to 61025. Or Big Dave is back producing the show and taking your calls as well. So you can give us a call on 0151 if you're outside Liverpool, of course, 708 1059. But all those details are online at planetxlive.co.uk. And Dan, of course, you're here going through the Facebook at the moment.
That's right. All you have to do is join our group, which is search for on Facebook, Planet X, City Talk 105.9. Ask to join the group and we'll accept you right here, and you can post comments, ask questions, and you can join in with our usual listeners. Very interesting conversations on Facebook.
Cool. And already there's quite a lot of stuff on the forums, isn't there?
That's right. We've got a few interesting questions on the whole subject of hypnotherapy on the forums coming in already, so we should be having in for a good show.
Cool. Now, we've only got a little bit of time because, as I say, we've got two guests tonight. So, Darren, I think you're going to run through some of the things that have interested you in the news for the past week.
Yeah, and just before I start, all this is more in depth on the forum. If you go to In the News section, you can watch videos and read links. There's been some fantastic developments in the last few days. One of them is the Bigfoot subject. And for those of you that don't know, Bigfoot is a mysterious monster that lurks around the woods in North America, and it's been around for years. And what we have recently are two young boys have found an extremely large paw or foot in a Massachusetts woods. They were basically playing, minding their own business. They found this decayed sort of foot, given it to the local police. The local police have gone, that's not a bear's foot, we're not too sure. They've given it to scientists, and scientists have said, yeah, this...
Planet X. The truth is on air. City Talk 105.9.
This is City Talk 105.9.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Do not be afraid. We are now in control of what you hear.
1, 2, 3, testing.
A journey to the far reaches of knowledge and the unknown.
I can't believe I just saw that.
From aliens to angels, conspiracies to cover-ups.
One soul and preeminent power.
From extraterrestrials to exposing the truth.
I'll try to explain as much as I can.
You're listening to Planet X.
You're listening to Planet X.
Planet X. Exclusive to City Talk 105.9.
Good evening, I'm Neil Atkinson, and welcome to our weekly journey to the world of the weird and the strange, the supernatural and the suppressed, the conspiracies to the cover-ups. It's all right here on Planet X each and every Sunday, 8 till 10, where the truth is on air. Broadcasting live from Liverpool on City Talk 105.9, online and on DAB as well. And to help me out each week, we have our fantastic Team X, consisting of Dan the Man, Darren Perks, and also tonight, David Lloyd and Stretchy. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Now, apologies for last week. I had a bit of a virus, and it was worse than man flu, so don't all start giving me grief. And so I had a virus, and by all accounts, so too did our website. Dun, dun, dun. But Stretchy Stretchy tells me that there's nothing conspiratorial about it. He's looking into it at the moment, but we had a few people posting on Facebook and on the forum saying, oh, it's the CIA and it's this, it's that, the other, the men in black, but apparently it's just one of those things. So anyway, we are back. We've got the boys in the studio and two fantastic and very different guests on the show tonight. In the second hour, we're going to be talking to the super soldier, James
Bank. The American government, they may borrow billions off the Federal Reserve or trillions in debt now, but they have to pay back the Federal Reserve at an interest rate which is going into a private banker's profits. So what James is saying, you can get rid of the Federal Reserve, but also get some of the suppressed technologies out as well.
Yeah, and this is what we're going to go into in the next hour with James just after at 9 o'clock. And again, you've been doing your research on him as well, haven't you, Darren? So
Yeah.
you found some interesting stuff.
Super soldiers, it's military linked. It's military linked. So we're talking about things that you're not going to hear in public, but this information is coming out, and people like James Rink are sharing the knowledge on it. And what I will say to people is listen to what he's got to say, because it links back to all sorts of different things. So
that's James Rink on the show just after 9 o'clock. In the first hour, in fact, after the first break, we're going to be talking to somebody called Dolores Cannon. Now, she's regarded as a regressive hypnotherapist and also a psychic researcher who, now this is the twist, records lost knowledge. She's been involved with hypnosis for some 40 years, and if you've seen the picture, she looks like a really sweet little old somebody's grandmother, doesn't she? But she really knows her stuff. She's been involved with this sort of subject for 40 years and exclusively with past life therapy and regression work for over 30 years. Now, over this time, she's developed her own unique technique, which enables her to gain the most efficient release of information from her clients to bring about sort of instantaneous healing, if you like. She's also been a UFO investigator for some 20 years, investigating the crop circles over here in this country and accumulating evidence from suspected abductees through hypnosis. And there's a lot of stuff. She's written some 14 books covering all kinds of incredible research. We're going to touch on a few different subjects. The waves of volunteers, which is something that she talks and writes about. The first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. The third wave being more to do with the sort of indigo and star sort of children. And also her theories on the fact that she says we exist within multiple dimensions and move between them without